My name's Scott Weber. I'm running for Park Board Commissioner in the Village of Lake Bluff. I have been on the Park District Board now for about a year. Before that, I was on the Citizens Committee and served in the Finance Committee in that capacity. I was appointed to a vacated spot about a year ago, just before all the COVID-19 stuff happened. My wife and I, Kara, have lived in Lake Bluff since 2014. We have 3 children, all of which who use Park District facilities and programs quite a bit. And when I moved here, you noticed that the Park Board committees were a little bit older. And so I thought that having myself on the board would be beneficial to not only myself, but our friends in the community, so we could have a voice in what goes on in the day-to-day operations, as well as kind of the medium and long-term horizons, and kind of have a role in guiding the Park District forward. It's been a very eventful year, and I look forward to hopefully serving in the same capacity going forward. Last March, I want to say, the the Park District was presented with 3 different options of what could be done to make sure that erosion in Sunrise Beach didn't progress any further. And all of those options were similar to what Lake Forest has put in to make sure that their beach kind of stays the way it is going forward. And so I think it's high time that we, actually took steps to implement some of those engineering proposals. And it's going to take not only a board effort, but we're going to have to incorporate the village and everyone in the community as well. When the Park District put out a survey a couple of years ago of the facilities and programs and amenities that were used the most, the beach was far and away number 1, and it's our most important asset that we need to preserve. And so one step we have taken forward towards that is that we are getting, I think, 22,000 tons of sand from Waukegan Harbor in 2021, and that will be put on Lake Bluff Beach. Just to give you an idea, last year 600 tons of sand were put on, so we're getting 20 times as much. So in order for us to do anything with that sand, we need to make sure that we have something in place so it doesn't get washed away in any type of winter storm. And so it's time that we made sure that we take steps to protect that for decades to come. One of the things that we've looked, quite a bit at is, how this has really impacted us, not only in 2020, but going forward in 2021. And so being on the Finance Committee, one thing that we did is that we took kind of 3 different scenarios, kind of a phase 3, phase 4 hybrid, a phase 4 throughout all of 21, and then kind of a phase 4, phase 5. So what we've seen most recently is it seems like it's going to be skewed towards kind of a phase 3, phase 4 hybrid for 2021. And what happens there is that all of the programming is going to be negatively affected. But as we saw in this past year, all the summer programming was not unaffected, but it was able to go on as with minor adjustments. And the same thing from a lot of the fall programming. The staff did an unbelievable job making appropriate adjustments so that we could still have a summer, right? We worked really hard as a board, and I know staff worked really hard to open up the pool. There wasn't hardly any communities around Chicago that was able to open up the pool, and we kind of took that risk and said, hey, our community needs that. So the thing that's going to be most negatively affected is programming. And now that we have a much better idea of how COVID affects, the programming budget, we're able to kind of like work around that. So we actually had a meeting last night on November 23rd to look at the preliminary 2021 budget, and fortunately the rec budget isn't going to be hopefully isn't going to be as dire as we had seen in the past. So I think we're still in a good financial position, and I think that we can persevere, and if we budget towards kind of worst case scenarios and we're pleasantly surprised, that's all the better. We as a board do need to work on quite a bit. This past year we did have a change in the executive director role. Our predecessor in that role had done a good job of kind of like community outreach, but there still are a lot of underlying issues that aren't really talked about a whole lot, that just kind of pop up. And when I talk with kind of friends of mine or people within the community about stuff that's going on in the park district, oftentimes they kind of raise an eyebrow, like, oh, I didn't know that was going on. So I think while we have like an email blast, I don't know how many people are really looking at that nearly as much as the followers we have on something like Instagram or Facebook. And while it's really nice to show all like the programming side of things from the park district, I think it's really important to put on some of those kind of like critical short-term and medium-term decisions that the park district has to make, especially when it comes to things like like the beach. It's like, I don't know, hardly anybody I've talked to knows that we're getting so much sand as a part of this pilot program. So I think that's something that the community could be really excited about. And same thing with we got a $350,000 grant this past, or 2 years ago, sorry, for the top of Sunrise Park. And I think it's something that hardly anybody knows about, but it's just getting out now with the brick sale. So it's something that we as a board need to do a better job of, and not rely on word of mouth. Lake Bluff's a really tight-knit community, but there are a lot of things that do kind of fall through the cracks, and we do need to make sure we do a better job of informing everyone.